Hey, Speak Easy podcast listeners. If you did not know, you're listening to the hashtag Speak Easy podcast with your host, Altavis Felder. I unmute the voice of women who are ready to speak up about what has kept her silent for way too long. And listen, this Life After COVID series, if you missed an episode, go back and listen to it. If you found that there was an episode that you really enjoyed, like probably a little too much, it's okay. I give you that space to love it a little too much. Go back and listen to it again and share it out across social media, because guess what? Somebody else may need it. Love it as much as you do. With that being said, I'm excited about today's topic because can we be honest? Some of us got a little excited with the whole Netflix and chill during quarantine. And it might have kind of taken the focus off of the vision that you had for the year. But don't fret. Don't fret. This is going to be a very encouraging episode to kind of push you a little bit and say, the same things you've been looking at on Netflix, it could be your story on there next. So with that being said, I'm excited about my guest for today. Hello, Steve.
Hi there, Altavis. This is so nice to be with you.
I'm excited about this episode, you guys, for so many reasons. I can't just give you all of them right now. But Steve, I want you to introduce yourself to the audience, and then we'll dive into today's topic.
Okay, but my name is Steve McChesney. And for those of you who want to know how to spell it, just think of Kenny Chesney. Put an MC in front of it and you got me. I am a sales and marketing coach. That's what I do for a living. I've been a jack of many trades, a master of some, but everything is good. It's all led to where I am today. And Altavis, you brought up in the beginning about Netflix, and your story is the one you should be watching and not necessarily turning that tube on and watching it. And you're no matter who you are, your story is important. It's important to not just you, but for those around you. And it's all good. And believe it or not, even if you spend a lot of time turning on Netflix, it's all good too, because, we don't apologize for what leads you to where you are. It's just now you got to take it and create some good habits and move forward in life. Because now we're we're not post COVID yet, but we're kind of on the other side leading toward it. Vaccinations are coming out, and we need to start thinking about how we're going to move forward in 2021. But it's exciting.
Right, exactly. And one of the reasons I'm so excited to have Steve on is because if I read down his resume of the things that he has done, I'm like, he's done it all. And this is why I said, sometimes your story is the one that somebody else needs to hear about. It's the one, like being the stunt man, being taxi driver, like when you look at it, it's like, oh my goodness, the experiences that you've had. And I'm sure some of the conversations that you've been a part of have been wild, right?
Yes, they have.
They have been wild. I'm sure of it. So with that being said, with everything that you've gone through and everything that you've done, first and foremost, we're going to start at the end and work our way backwards. Okay. What keeps you going, Steve? Like, oh my goodness. When I saw WWE, I was like, that's it for me. I would have been like, that's it right there.
Well, it's funny. I'm a true believer that everything that you do in life leads to what you do next and to where you end up. And it's funny with WWE because I produced and directed 6 episodes with a former WWE superstar, and it was called the-bill-demott-experience. Well, I didn't have any idea at this time in my life that way back when I was 17 and 18, I was a huge wrestling fan, where I'd actually go to wrestling matches and see Freddie Blassie and John Tolis and Andre the Giant and all these huge, and then I kind of got out of the wrestling, thing. But then later on in life, here I am directing and producing a wrestler who is a very, very great man. I mean, something about all wrestlers, and I got to meet a lot of them. And I love the sport. It's sports entertainment, as they call it. But guess what? It makes a lot of people happy, and boy, bless those guys, because they work really, really hard, and it's crazy. So yeah, again, I kind of got off track there. I'm so sorry. But what I will start by saying is, here's what I have learned in my life. is that your life is actually in 4 quarters. If you think of it like a football game, the first quarter is when you're born until you're 20. And in that quarter, you can't wait to be an adult. You have no idea how good you already have it, but you can't wait to get to be an adult. And then your second quarter of life is when you're 20 to when you're 40. And that's where you make all the mistakes in life. That's where you get to stumble a little bit and pick yourself up and learn some lessons and move forward again. Then you have the third quarter of life, and that's when you're 40 to 60. 40 to 60 should start showing some results of the first 2 quarters. You should start having, your house you live in, you're married, you got kids or whatever, but you're starting to get more stable in your life between those 40 and 60. Then you have the final quarter of your life, is where I'm in right now, and that's between 60 and when you leave this planet. And if you did everything right in the first 3 quarters, you should be able to enjoy this quarter. And so you asked the question of what keeps me going? I'm loving this quarter. I'm loving it. I mean, life is so good, and I'm so blessed, and I'm so grateful. And, I can't stop because, I'm all about being in service to people. And there's people to be in service to. I'm going to keep on going. Why wouldn't I? Right? It's just too good.
Oh my goodness. So something you just said, and I want to highlight it for the Speak Easy podcast listeners. Love the quarter you are in.
Yes. Yes.
Live it to the fullest and love it. I know we had a lot go on during COVID, but there were some people who took trips overseas and still were like doing major things throughout everything that was going on. There were still people that were starting businesses and writing books and deciding, what, I am going to make a movie. I am going to do this phenomenal thing. And, getting to that point where you really say, I'm going to love the season I'm in. I'm going to love the quarter I'm in. That takes a lot. It definitely takes a lot. But it benefits you as you move forward so much.
It really does. And you've got to be able to forgive yourself for the mistakes you make at the same time along the way, because you're going to make them. I mean, we're human. They put erasers on pencils for a reason. I mean, just live it and accept it and make it better because of it. There's no such thing as failure, by the way. It's all education. And nobody succeeds without failure. So embrace it. It's okay. There's no doubt about it. And I'll tell you this about COVID. I think that there's a silver lining to everything. And if you look at the silver lining of COVID, outside of the health part of it, but just the fact that now you had the time to take a break and breathe, because we're so caught up in our lives. We're so busy trying to do whatever we're doing that we don't take that time for ourselves. Well, COVID kind of forced it on you. You got to sit back and go, okay, well, I can't go out. The restaurants are closed. The bars are closed. Let me go. Oh yeah, I wanted to start a business. Oh yeah, I wanted to make a movie. Oh yeah. I mean, so we got to take that breath and that's a good thing. It's a real good thing.
And one of the things that I love is that especially looking at your bio and looking at the things that you've been able to do, you being a results coach makes so much sense, because I have to have experience in doing and achieving the things that I really wanted to do, and some of the things that I had to do, and some of the things that I wish I didn't do.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. You're right. And and I'm just as appreciative of those failures too, in the things that I had to do that I didn't want to do. Again, it was all part of the what got me to where I'm at. I couldn't do what I do today if I ignored any of that went on. And not all of it was pleasant. You mentioned earlier, there was a time when I was a taxi driver. I was a taxi driver because the rug got pulled out from underneath me. All my finances had dried up instantly, overnight, basically. And I'm not opposed to doing anything to keep a roof over my family's head. I will do anything. And just so happens, way back when I was in the Army, I moonlighted as a taxi driver in Killeen, Texas, near Fort Hood, just for a couple extra bucks. Had no idea that later in life, I would have to be a taxi driver to be able to pay the bills. And, luckily it didn't last long. I think it was maybe almost a year that I drove a taxi, but then I was back on my feet and making it happen again. But it was okay. But what was fun? The conversations I got to have with people. Man, it's pretty different when you're picking somebody up at 10 o'clock in the morning at the airport versus picking somebody up at 2:30 in the morning from a bar. it's, it's, but man, is it
I know
interesting.
those conversations are probably some of the ones that you remember them.
Oh man, they're interesting. They're fun. I think I've written about some of them.
I love it. I love it. Now, one of the things that really stands out too is the habits, not only that we have to break, but the habits that we have to create in that process. So, Steve, speak to that a little bit as well, because when we're trying to get some real results, there's some things that really do have to change.
You do. And the truth of the matter is when you're a kid, you do things on impulse. But then when you become an adult, you start creating habits, and good and bad. The bad ones can lead to a life of misery if you don't, correct them, some of them. And we see it all around us. I mean, alcoholism and drug addiction and things like that. They're habits like anything else. Well, there's a book called The World's Greatest Salesman. It's written by a man named Og Mandino, and it's a brilliant book. It was written a long, long time ago, but in it, it's a story. It's a story about a guy that wants to become a salesman, and there's 10 scrolls that he has to learn, and he has to spend 30 days on each scroll because 30 days creates a habit, and each scroll teaches him something new about sales. Well, the first scroll is the scroll on how to learn to be a salesman, and the first thing it talks about is how habits have dictated your life. Now you need to go and look at those habits and get rid of the bad ones, but you need to replace them with good ones. Not just get rid of the bad ones, because you can't just get rid of it. You got to replace it with something. So replace it with a good one. And I will tell you, not because of the book, well, partly because of the books. I read it a long time ago, but I've created 3 new habits for myself this year. And this is almost post-COVID. And part of it is because of that COVID. Here's my 3 habits. I have decided that when I get up in the morning, before I pick up my phone, I don't look at email. I don't look at social media. The first thing I do is I spend 30 minutes reading. And I'll read, nonfiction, self-help books, something that's good for my soul. Then I'll spend 30 minutes on an audiobook that's a little bit more entertaining. And right now I'm listening to Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. That's entertaining. So, but I do that. The first hour is for my brain, for my soul. Don't want any outside influences. That's why there's no social media, no emails. I don't look at any of that stuff. Then after I do that, I write in my journal. And there's no time limit to writing in my journal. But the one thing I do in every journal is at the end of it, I have to write what I'm grateful for this morning. And that's my habit to do that. Then the third thing I do is my daughter just got out of the Navy and she moved home and she has a Doberman. And so the Doberman and my daughter are living with me again until she finds her next journey. But after I've listened to the audiobook, wrote in my journal, I then take that Doberman for a jog. Now, listen to me when I tell you this. I haven't jogged in 20 years. So now we're into, January pretty deep
so
now.
Wait, are you taking the Doberman for the jog, or is the Doberman taking you for the jog?
Doberman kind of takes me, but I'm getting better at it. And in the beginning, I was running a little while and I get winded, but now I can pretty much do a pretty good jog. Dog's loving it. But here's the truth. My daughter is going to, move on in her journey and move out and start the next chapter of her life. And she's taking the dog with her. But I'll have the habit of doing the jogging, because I'll tell you something, especially at my age, that cardio, and it's beautiful. The weather's nice. The air is fresh. So that morning, those 3 habits, the reading, the journaling, and then the jogging, already have changed my life, I feel, in the 18 days that I've been doing it. But you know what? I've been sticking to it for 18 days, and I'll get to that 30 day, and it will become a habit. Now it's not even hard because it's normal. So you do it every day. And, and just not having the influence of the outside world first thing in the morning it puts you into that space that you're ready to face the world. And you get a lot accomplished.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So first of all, I'm an avid reader. So you know that I put that book down for my,
good.
My
you
list.
Should read it. Yes. Everybody should. It's really, really
I am
good.
Always going and reading. I just started picking back up reading through Kindle, because I love Audible and listening to an audiobook. But man, just taking that time to invest in myself, I think that was a big one for me when it came to the habits um, throughout COVID, was that, taking that time where you just sit down and either read or listen to something. Another one that I started maybe about a year before COVID started was every week I would watch a documentary.
Oh, nice.
And so I learned some really interesting business tips. I learned some really interesting stories um, when watching the different documentaries, that things that I never knew. But if I never sat down and just took that time, and phones are in another section of the room, or
Yep.
just sit down and be intrigued by what I'm learning in this documentary, it definitely takes you to another level. Now, you got to be careful because you can easily slide over to another movie
You're
or
sliding into
something
that
else.
Netflix area. Yep, I get that. But you know what? I think that's a great idea, though, especially if you're picking and choosing which documentaries you want to watch. You can't go wrong when you're learning about the human existence. And in documentaries, you do that. I had the privilege. I was a talent manager for a lot of years, and I had celebrity clients. And I had the privilege of traveling the world. I've been around the world a couple of times. And just to tell you real quick, I was in Moscow in 1993 when the coup attempt took place. I talk about scared American. I was also in Germany on the Autobahn doing 145 miles an hour, and a motorcycle passed us, and the driver turned to me and he said, "He'd have never passed me if I had my summer tires." It was okay with me, but here's the thing. In the different cultures and the different people that I've seen and got to observe, I also saw the similarities that we all have as human beings. And that's where to focus, because we do have a lot of similarities. When I talk to my coaching clients and just to people in general in business, I say there's a couple of things you really need to know. First of all, you need to know what motivates people. Understand that what motivates people, because we're all motivated by the same things. It doesn't matter which generation you're from. We're all motivated by fear. We're all motivated by love. We're all motivated by generosity. There's things like that that are important. So if you're going to do some marketing, think about those motivators and how they can be handy for you to attract the customer that you want, the ideal customer. Also understand communication styles. That's something that all of us have. We either like bullet points to get to the point quickly, or we like details. I mean, it's one or the other. I'm a bullet point guy. My wife's a detail lady. I come home and I say to her, "Honey, how was your day?" She tells me in detail, in real time. In my mind, I'm going, "Please get to the point." But I've been married for 27 years, so I'm not complaining. It's a good thing. So, but those are the kind of things that I observe and witness, and whenever I can, I share that with people, because the more we know, the more we grow, and it's just an important part of it. I think I wrote my book. My book was Rearranging Change, but believe it or not, I titled that book before COVID. I had no idea COVID was coming. So it's Rearranging Change, How You Market to an Ever-Changing World. And I named it that because things are always changing. COVID's new to us because we've never experienced anything like it before, but it's just one of the things that's changing. Things are always in a constant state of change, and we got to accept it, and it's okay. Let's flow with it. Let's have fun with it. Let's make it an adventure, because life is an adventure.
Oh, and looking at it in that light, I absolutely love that, because one of the things that we forget is we kind of get set into these, the box, of, okay, things need to look this way. They need to happen this way. And, oh no, if you go outside of the box, who knows what'll happen?
Right. Ooh, scary. You can't try that. I find it interesting. I look at online, I see all of the online gurus who, sell their wares, and some of them are great. Some of them are not great, but a lot of them are selling the same thing. It's just the same thing. And the same thing works only until it doesn't anymore. And then until somebody comes up with some new same thing. Be the person to come up with the new same thing. I mean, you started out, and just go outside the box. Like you said, don't get stuck in that box, because if you can think outside of it, and at least try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So what? Failure. Exactly. Failure is not failure. Failure is the one step closer to success.
That's it. I love it. Oh my goodness. Speak Easy podcast listeners, this episode has been going phenomenal. I absolutely love it. I know that this was one of those ones that was going to give you a little something and give you a little feel good while you were listening too. So you'll definitely want to go and check it out again. Send it out, share it out. But this is all for you. Why? Because without the Speak Easy podcast listeners, there would be no Speak Easy podcast. So we appreciate each and every one of you and each and every review that you leave on your favorite podcasting platform. Before we leave out, though, Steve, let them know how they can get the book, how they can reach out to you for more information and connect with you online.
Well, I'm going to give them two ways to get the book. If you're one of those people that has to have a physical copy in your hand, just go to Amazon. It's called Rearranging Change, How You Market to an Ever-Changing World, and they'd be happy to send you one after you give them your credit card. Now, the other way to get it is you can get a free PDF copy if you want. Just go to rearrangingchange.com. You got to give me your name and your email address, but in return, I'm going to give you a copy of the book. And I promise I'm not going to bombard your email box like everybody else is doing. I mean, you'll get some emails from me, but I promise you're going to enjoy every single one of them. So those are the two ways to get the book. You can always visit my website at stevemcchesney.com and learn more about me and see some of the other books that I've written and just all kinds of fun stuff. But I'll tell you what, I love the name of your podcast, Speak Easy Podcast, because you do speak easy. And I just love it. It's totally great.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate you saying that. Guys, this has been a great episode. Man, just tap in, get past where you are. Understand that there are so many great things that you can go and achieve in the world, that you can go and experience in the world. And it all starts with you saying yes and moving forward. With that being said, I cannot leave this episode without shouting out our sponsor, Good Living Now. Good Living Now sells black seed oil capsules that you can take twice a day. I want you to go to bit.ly/a greater life, and you can actually learn about the CEO and founder, Harold LaFleur, who was taking the black seed oil after finding out that he had gotten cancer. So you definitely want to tap into his story. It's one that will empower you and inspire you. bit.ly/a greater life is the website, so you can go and find that out. Guys, this has been a great episode. Let me know how it resonated with you, but also keep tuning in because we appreciate you. And I am your host, Altavis Felder, your voice manager. And until next time, don't forget to press it out. See ya.